Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. You can see I have a brand new Google Home Mini here. This is the Aqua version, and what I'm going to do with this video is get it set up from the very start of the process all the way to the end and all the different features set up for you. So I'm going to do as much as I can today to get you as far as you can with your new Google Home Mini device. So down in the description below, this video is indexed. That means you can go click on the different time codes in the description to go to the different parts of the setup process that you're at. You can skip back and forward, obviously, and that's just going to make it a little bit easier for you to find the topic that you're looking for. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, now what you're going to find is there's a little tab here that you can actually pull and open that up, and that's the easiest method to actually pull out your Google Home Mini. So you can see there's that aqua color. I actually really like that color, and on the back it's even greener, so that's quite an interesting little color there. I think that's going to be a good accent piece. Now additionally, inside the box there's not a ton here. You have the manual, which you're not going to need because that's why you're watching this video, and here's the power cord. Now, it's important to note with the power cords that they are all basically international ready. Obviously, you know, that device isn't going to plug into all the types of plugs around the world, but they are 100 to 240 volts capable. So another thing about this power cable, you know, you do get a couple of clips here. Ultimately, I'm not really going to use those clips any longer, but you could use those clips to kind of tie wrap this if it's really close in. The other thing you're going to want to know, and I know that's stretching outside the screen, but that's at least a 6-foot cable here to get you connected. So now just a couple things left to go through. On the device physically, here's the mute microphone component here, or switch, so you can go ahead and you can move that back and forth to mute the microphone. This is where you're connecting that power cable right there. And way on the bottom here, and this is going to be hard to see, I'll try and make sure you can see it, there's a little button right there, and that's actually how you factory reset this button. Now, once you do plug in the device, and I'll show you this, your control buttons on either side are your volume, and then you can also start and stop music if it's currently playing just by a simple tap there on the device. All right, now I've set the device over here, and I'm going to go into my Google Home application here just before I get it plugged in. You don't have to go in before or after, it really doesn't matter when you go into the application, but I'm going to leave it sitting there just so you can see it as I plug this in, the exact timeline of when everything happens. So let's get this plugged in. So there, I've just plugged it in, and right away you can see the dots coming online here.
Welcome to Google Home. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
Okay, so that's a pretty common thing there, and you can see in my Google Home application, it says set up one device, so it's already found that device is waiting to be set up. So now, although it showed up here in my Google Home application right away, that might not have happened for you. You could use the add button here if that was not working for you. The other thing that might occur to you if this is your very first Google Home Mini is you might need to log in with a Google account, or either sign up for a new Google account, and you know, either of those two things, that will be important for you here. One thing to think about with that Google account before you go signing in or creating a new one, this will be the account that will drive a lot of your connected services. So for example, Google Photos, that will be tied to your Google account. Same thing with the calendar, stocks, a number of news things in the future I see being more and more tied to your Google account as well. So that Google account drives a lot as we go here, and I will show you those things as we get things set up here today. So I'm just going to start by hitting set up one device, and now I have to choose a number of things to get this set up. So the first thing is the home that I'm setting it up. Now I didn't show you that before, but the home is more than likely, you as a first person, you're only going to have one. And then otherwise, if you have more than one set up, you're going to choose which home you want it in. Now, why would you have multiple homes? Well, that story is basically, if you want to segregate devices into different control schemes, you can go that way. Now, it's looking for this Google Home Mini, and it did find that device. If it didn't show up here for you, there are some Wi-Fi troubleshooting steps that I'm going to give you kind of towards the end of this setup process. Now, let's go ahead and move on. Click on the Google Home Mini that we have here, and now it's just going through a connection process. So the first question we've got, did you hear that sound? Now I did hear the sound. If you didn't, you can hit try again. But yes, I did hear that sound. Now, do you want to help improve Google Home Mini by sending them some statistics and things? I always choose no, because I have a ton of these devices in my home at this point. And where is this device going to be located? So you're picking from the rooms, and I have a number of rooms in my home already. If you don't, you can go down here to the bottom and create new rooms. Now, this one's actually going to reside in the kitchen, and I'm going to put it on kind of a sideways stand. So I'm going to choose the kitchen for now, and now I'm choosing my Wi-Fi network. A difference between you and I here is that in the past, I've put in credentials to my Wi-Fi network. If you haven't, you're going to have to put in those credentials. So this is a good point to kind of stop for a second and talk about Wi-Fi network connection and some of the troubleshooting steps. Now, what I'll tell you in general is that Google is, this device isn't going to make a lot of mistakes unless you have a real problem device. Your more likely issue is Wi-Fi network traffic. So a couple things to think about when you're setting up a device like this. Keep it away from a number of Wi-Fi broadcasting or 2.4 gigahertz broadcasting devices. What I mean by that, phones, other smart home devices broadcasting on that 2.4 gigahertz. And the same thing goes for your router. You shouldn't have a ton of devices around that are broadcasting or utilizing that signal. That can create a lot of interference in your home network. So number one, you kind of want to limit the direct interaction of Wi-Fi products right next to these devices. Another thing you can do if you're not making that connection or you're not seeing the Google Home Mini is you can bring it a little closer to your router and keep your phone in kind of the general vicinity as you go through this, not really close. You can see I'm less than a meter away here. That works just fine. But 4 to 6 meters in terms of distance between the Google Home Mini and your router is ideal, and that's actually what Google tells you on their support website. The other thing you can do is really just reset your router. You should be able to pull that cable right out the back, wait a bit, wait about 30 seconds, plug it back in, and it should bring everything back up just normally. It'll take about a minute, and you can tell that that's worked by watching your Wi-Fi signal on your phone. Does your phone reconnect to that Wi-Fi? Once it does, then I think you can go ahead within the next 5 to 10 seconds, go ahead and try and reconnect to this device. So those kind of help you to get Wi-Fi connected. After that, you're going to want to talk to Google support directly. So support.google.com, that will redirect to the chat available for your country, and they will call you if there's significant issues and you need them to walk you through some things. So because everyone's Wi-Fi setup is different, their network is different, that's about as much as I can help you with in terms of troubleshooting your Wi-Fi connection. Now, like I said, it's time to go forward here and connect this device to Wi-Fi. You would have to put in your Wi-Fi credentials if they weren't already saved to Google. And once it makes this connection, you will have the opportunity to save that network to Google's basically to their database, and therefore you won't ever have to put in those credentials on another Google Home related product. Next up is the Google Assistant setup. So now the physical device is set up here, but we need to get the Assistant, which powers the device, set up. Now they're just telling you about their partners and how they share data, and you should read that, don't get me wrong. I'm just going to hit next because I've read it a few hundred times, but it's just telling you about how they share your data. Now the next thing is teaching your voice assistant to recognize your voice. So whenever you speak to your Google Home product, you're going to have the ability to be recognized, and that means you can get things like personal results, which are calendars and your work location or your home location, kind of the navigation component there. You can call people, utilize that functionality as well, and utilize your contacts in your device here. So you can go ahead, you can view more, but ultimately you want to agree, and then it's going to ask you to teach the Google Assistant your voice. So what you'll actually do is speak to your Google Assistant enabled device, and they just run you through what you have to say. It's usually just the wake word 4 times. So once you've done that, now we're talking about personal results and actually turning that feature on. Now personal results, again, contacts, calendars, all those things that are personal to you, you can go ahead and put them in and get them out and interact with the device on a more personal level. So in general, I'll tell you, you want to agree to that. Next up, enter your address. This is where you live. So this is the first thing you're putting in. In general, I'd say do that. If you want to ask about navigation, like how long is it going to take me to get here or there to work, for example, because you're able to put in your work address later. Now, in terms of media services here, you can see I already have 3 different connected services. This will look different for you depending on which country you're in and which services you already have connected. You can see the little plus button down there by Deezer, and if I hit that, it's asking me to link my account. This is all you have to do, linking your account, and you're going to see this time and time again as we go through this process. It's really just putting in your credentials to that account. So I don't actually have a Deezer account. I'm going to hit cancel, but you can see that I have the 3 other services here. So once you've added your media services, you go ahead, you hit next, and now you have to choose your default music service. So you can pick from the ones you've connected, and you can say, you know, this is the one I want to use the most. I'm using Google Play Music because I have lots of playlists and things set up in there. So now this is the very last component. You could sit here and you could scroll through all the different things you've set up, but you're done, and now all you need to do is hit next, and the complete setup process is actually complete. So now you'll notice it said that it was called the kitchen speaker. That's because of the room I put it in at the start. We can change that name later, so don't worry about that too much. But ultimately, we're all done the setup process for your Google Home Mini. Now that's just the basic process. So what we're going to do next, go through the application and the device settings, kind of show you how to navigate the application a little bit, and then show you how to modify the settings on this device and what that actually does. So we're gonna go through all kinds of demos here. Let's get going. Back to the home page. You probably won't have a ton of these things set up, but I wanna run you through it. Here's the off button, which allows you to turn off lights in different rooms. So what you're seeing are the rooms that you already have in your application. The on button is just the reverse of that. So what you can also do with this is you can actually speak to your device and tell it to turn on the lights per room. Now, because I've set it in the kitchen, if I had any lights in there, and I don't currently have any lights set up in my kitchen, then I could actually just say turn on the lights to the Google Home device, and it would contextually know which room it's in and turn on only those lights. So because it's in the kitchen, it would turn on the kitchen lights or turn off the kitchen lights. What you can also do is call the room out by name or say turn on all the lights, and that will turn on all the lights in your home. So let me show you here real quick what that looks like. Turn out the lights.
Sure, turning off 7 lights. It looks like the light bulb isn't available right now.
Turn on the lights.
Sure, turning on 7 lights.
Turn off the lights in the basement office.
You got it, turning 2 lights off.
Turn on the lights in the basement living room.
Okay, turning the basement lamp on.
Change the basement office light to red.
You got it, changing 2 lights to red.
Turn on the TV.
You got it, turning on the TV.
Turn off the TV.
Okay, turning the TV off.
All right, now the play button allows you to just start, and it's kind of random music. It'll be based on your preferences for the most part, but it allows you to pick any group that you've set up, so any multi-room audio group, any speaker that you have in your home related to the Google Home or having the Google Assistant on board, a Chromecast audio, a version 2 or version 3 Chromecast device. Those are all showing up here, but you can see the kitchen speaker. So I'm going to tap on that and it will start music immediately for my default music service. Enough of that. Now, I don't know why it played that song, but again, it's kind of random. Now, here's the interface that came right up as soon as I hit play. You can see up at the top here, there's an equalizer that I can go ahead and utilize. And I'll say in general with a Google Home Mini, you kind of want to turn up the bass a little bit, turn down the treble a little bit. That'll kind of balance the speaker out. It's a little stronger in the mid and high ranges than it is the bass range. Now, the play and pause buttons you saw in the middle, and here's the volume control that I have as well. You can see it physically changing the device as well there. You can also move back and forth in the song right through this and skip back 30 seconds utilizing that button. Now, you can also stop casting, and you can open the application, your primary application, as long as it's located on the device here. You can open that application and you could go and, of course, modify what's actually playing and then use this kind of a cast button to actually cast to that device. So let me run you through a more comprehensive demo on utilizing this speaker for audio, and then we'll get into multi-room audio here in a second. Play Foo Fighters.
Okay, playing Foo Fighters on Google Play Music.
Play Foo Fighters on Spotify.
Okay, playing Foo Fighters on Spotify.
Volume to 30%. Next song. Stop. Okay, so let's go through multi-room audio. You're going to need that add button now, and you can see this create speaker group. Now I can go ahead and I can choose any of my devices that I've set up here. You can see my kitchen speaker, and I can go through and then I just hit next. Then I have to put in a name and that creates it. Now, what I'm actually going to show you instead of creating that would have been the end of the process, is down here at the bottom of the application, here are my groups. Now, what does that do for you? Well, these are already my pre-created ones. So I'm going to go into this office group. It's not playing anything right now, but what I am going to do is choose the devices that I want. So I can go ahead and I can modify these groups, and I can add in my kitchen speaker right there. So now I hit next, and there it's added into the group. Now, if I didn't like the name of the group, I could change it up at the top here. If I wanted to delete the group entirely, I could press that button right there. So that allows you to manage those groups as well. And now that we have this office group, I can go ahead and start the music on that by simply requesting my Google Home device to play on office group.
Into the sea and find out that you can breathe. Yeah. Sink into the sea and find out that lives do that.
Play Foo Fighters on office group.
Sure, Foo Fighters from Google Play Music. Playing on Office Group.
So there you go. I think you've got an idea for music. There's one more setting later that I'll show you with the device settings itself, where you can actually manage how long of a delay is between your different speakers. So I'll show you that in a little bit here. All right, so the next button down there is the broadcast button, and this feature I think is going to be improved a little bit here as we go. But what it does right now is allows you to push that button, say a message basically into your phone, and then it will broadcast on all your Google Home or Google Assistant enabled devices that are connected to the Google Home app and to this home. So that's one of the breakdowns there. You can see I tapped on home there and I move over, and this is a different broadcast button. It looks the same obviously, but you would be broadcasting to this home instead. So that's how you can start to break up devices a little bit. Now, the features that are improving here right away is the fact that you'll be able to use that button if you're not on your Wi-Fi network here. And then, so you're out and about and you're on your phone, you hit that broadcast button or you use the Google Assistant app to broadcast, then you're going to be able to broadcast to home, and that capability is there. But what you will get soon is the ability to have someone at home respond to you utilizing these devices. So when that happens, you're going to see that ability. So let me show you this and then I'll talk a little bit about what we should see in the future. So
What's the message?
hello, how is everyone?
Got it. Broadcast.
Hello, how is everyone? So I think you can tell there's a few Google Assistant or Google Home devices here in this room, and it will sound a little confusing as you put that out if there's a number of devices sitting together. Now in the future, and this is what we're going to see, I'm sure of it, it hasn't even been announced by Google, but I'm sure you're going to have the ability to direct your broadcast to different devices. So essentially call your other devices. So I think over time we're going to see the capabilities of that button expand quite a bit. So now I'm going to walk through the device settings here for our Google Home Mini. So I've got to scroll down here and you can see all these different rooms I have set up. You might not have that, but if I tap on the name of the room, I can go into that room, see all the devices, and then I can go into each device separately. I can modify the name, I can modify the home it's in, and I can modify the room. And if it's a connected service like this device, which is connected to Samsung SmartThings, I could hit the unlink button and then hit unlink again essentially and take that right out of the Google Home application. Now back to my Google Home Mini, so I can just tap on that, and this is the interface I was using before when we were playing music, but up in the top right is the gear icon, and these are the device settings. So this is specific to the device itself. So you can see the linked accounts. I know I'm kind of covering that up right now, but you can see the linked accounts accounts, so you could attach multiple accounts, which I'll show you how to do in a little bit. The name, the home, the room, and any groups that it's been included in. So, you know, when you set up a new device, if you come in here and you want to attach it to multiple groups, there you go. That's all I had to do right there. Now you can see it's in all those other groups. If Wi-Fi is a problem or you're switching Wi-Fi services, you can go in there and go ahead and modify which one it's attached to. Digital well-being is a very interesting service here. We could set that up per device. So when you come into your device here, set it up, and the first thing we're going to do is set up filters. Now, do I want to filter what anyone can do with this device or only supervised accounts and guests? So, you know, for myself, I've been voice matched. Anyone else I add to the home, they can be voice matched as well. And then therefore, if they're not a supervised account, which you know, in the future, you're going to see kind of a hierarchy, I'm sure of this. That's how home automation or automation in general works. You have a hierarchy of permissions. So, you know, for now, I'm just going to leave it as supervised accounts and guests, and I'm going to choose that device. I could choose multiple devices if I'd like, so you can see I can do that. And then I hit next. Now, what do I want to allow from video perspective? Now, because this is a Google Home Mini, you would think video is not really important, but later you will choose a default TV to play videos on. So when you speak to this, can you restrict that content, or do you want to restrict that content? So do we allow, you know, YouTube restricted mode? Probably not. If this is going to be a public device that a child is going to use, you probably want to turn that off. So now in music, do I want to allow any music or only non-explicit music from specific services? Now, if you think about it, you can have your default music service be the one that allows explicit music, and then you could use these other services if you'd like. You can kind of filter those or leave those so that any music can play on those, and you just simply tap on that. A child would have to know, I want to play bad music on Spotify. They would have to give that command if that's not your default music service. So that can help you manage basically all of that content. Now, do you want to allow calls, and do you want to restrict answers or only allow family-friendly actions? Now, those are all capabilities that can really restrict your device. Obviously, calls is just calls. Do you want to make those calls or allow anyone to make phone calls? Do you want to restrict the answers, which will very much restrict your device down to things like weather? And if you want to do that, go ahead. That can be the setting for your family. That's okay. Now, family-friendly actions, this will kind of eliminate third-party assistant type of responses, so you can go and get other actions from the Google Assistant store. And when you do that over time, certain ones will have restricted tag or will not be family friendly. So if you want to restrict those things, go ahead. What I'd say in general for phone calls, I would allow, you know, anyone basically to make phone calls. Either I'm at home or my child wants to call me for some reason. So why would I restrict that? So now my filters are done, and we're moving on to downtime. So when do I want this device to be quiet and, you know, block all the distractions, stop music and video, and essentially still allow the alarms and timers to work? So if this is going to end up in a public space or it's going to end up in a bedroom, I think you're going to want to set up this downtime. Now, again, I can choose multiple devices if I'd like, and then I can also choose which days I want that to happen. So I can totally customize, and I could pick random days if I'd like, hit next, choose my downtime, so when I want it to start. So 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I'll just leave that 6 a.m. I hit next, and now that's it. So from 11 to 6, this device is going to be quiet other than alarms and timers. So that's it. Now that digital well-being is set up, I can still go back in if I'd like and adjust those settings, but ultimately that is complete. Now here's the equalizer again inside of our device settings, and here's the group delay correction. And what I'm going to tell you is anytime you're casting to a group of speakers and they're close by, you're going to want to work with this screen on multiple devices. And what I'll tell you is find the device that is the furthest ahead in the song and find the device that is the furthest behind in the song. Take that device that's the furthest behind and delay it as much as you can or what you need to catch it up to that other device. And when you do that, everything else can be in the middle in terms of synchronizing audio. So that's the way to start the process, and you just sit here and you change this slider right here. It can be a little hard to grab sometimes, but there you go. You change the slider and that's your synchronization slider basically. What I'll say is my Google Chromecast was the device that was the furthest ahead in terms of how far the song had been played into. So it was the one that was the furthest ahead. The one that was the furthest behind was actually my Google Home, my standard Google Home device. This was somewhere in the middle or very close to my Google Home, and the Google Chromecast, the Chromecast audio rather, was very close to my Google Chromecast. So, you know, in general, what I'll tell you to do is find the device that's the furthest ahead in the song and find the device that's the furthest behind in the song. And what you do is you delay the speaker or the Chromecast. In my case, it was the Chromecast. I had to delay that the full 200 milliseconds that you have use of the slider basically inside of the application. I had to defer that 200 milliseconds fully to get it to basically synchronize with this device. Now that's what you have to do. You identify the first and last speaker, and then you just make them all meet that last speaker based on delay. And unfortunately, if you have too much delay for some reason, you're not going to be able to do this. I wouldn't expect it. It's kind of expected that all the audio in your home should be around that timeline, but if you have additional Wi-Fi devices like a Wi-Fi extender, that's going to be something that's going to add another delay to your system. If you have other hops or other hubs, things that are kind of taking up lots of traffic, you may run into extra delay. So now let me actually show you really quickly. You can see in the first part of this, there is that funny delay, and really all I'm doing is moving that slider on my Google Chromecast to match up with my Google Home here, and then both of them are synchronized. And at that point, I'm able to synchronize everything. So you can see from the first to the last part of this next demo, the differential, and you can actually hear it synchronizing.
Who cares if one more light goes out in the sky of a million stars out? If a moment is all we are, or quicker.
Now back into the device settings, you can choose a default speaker. So I could choose any of those groups I've created or any of my other Google Home or Google Assistant enabled devices. I can choose those, and that will allow me to, whenever I ask music to be played, have it play on that other device. You can also start the pairing capability right here for pairing another Bluetooth speaker to this device. Now, you know, in general, what I'll say, the process is a little bit easier using your voice. You just ask the Google Home device to enable Bluetooth. So let me show you that here in a demo. Enable Bluetooth.
All right, looking for paired devices. All right, to connect, open Bluetooth settings and look for the device called kitchen speaker.
Next song. Disable Bluetooth.
Okay, Bluetooth is disconnected.
So there you go. Now I could choose any default speaker, but ultimately if I just don't choose anything there, it's going to use the speaker itself when I ask it to play music. Now, choosing a default TV makes a lot more sense for a Google Home Mini. So I'm going to choose my basement Chrome device. And so when I ask it to play Netflix, I don't have to say on basement Chrome, it's going to play on that device. So if this is going to be set up in a certain space, you can go ahead and make that happen just with a very simple command. Alarms and timers, very simple. You can set the volume separately if you'd like for alarms and timers. Then we're into things like night mode. Night mode will basically bring the brightness of the LEDs physically on the device down if you'd like, and you can set it also for a certain time period on certain days, and you can set a do not disturb mode as well at that nighttime. The other thing it will do is reduce the volume of responses, so that's actually a nice setting, and you can set these max volumes and max brightness on these sliders down here. So lots of control kind of in the evening. So now back to do not disturb mode. This is a whole setting in and of itself, and you can just turn that on. So it's gonna mute everything basically except alarms and timers. There is a guest mode, not something typically you're going to want to use. That means people can connect to your Google Home device in general, but the accessibility, this is something that you might want to start sound and an end sound. Let me show you the difference when I turn those on. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So you'll notice those sounds at the beginning and end, and if I turn it off again, thank you.
No problem.
So no sounds there, and that's what accessibility is, and that can let you know that your Google Home Mini or Google Home device heard you when you turn on those start and end sounds. I kind of like them there. Paired Bluetooth devices. This is a list of the devices you've already paired. So you can enable the pairing mode right here. Again, we went through that demo for enabling pairing. Reversing device controls. So, if you're turning this device on its side, and I said I was going to do this with my Mini here, if you're turning this device on its side, you might want to reverse the control. So this just allows you to actually reverse the volume controls. So a little bit more here, lower the volume when listening. In general, I'll say leave that setting on. Your device will hear you if music is playing. It will hear that command that you're going to give once you've given that wake word. Let others control your cast media. This is, only on Android devices, and it allows them, if they'd like, to adjust that connected or that media that's being casted right now. So, that really works well if you have a number of Android devices in the home, and say you're playing Christmas music and you want people to be able to change the music that's playing. Now, help improve Google Home Mini. That was that device setting we did way earlier in the setup process where we said you can send statistics and things to them. But there's the remove the device. You can remove it from your home and reset it up. That's how you unlink it here from your home if you needed to. And then down at the bottom, here's the system firmware version, the cast firmware version, country codes, the language that's primary on the device right now. You can see the MAC address and the IP address, so you can see a ton of information, and that's important as you go forward. The cast firmware version is essentially what tells you how many features you have with this device. So moving back now to the home page here, I'm going to hit add, and first we're going to go through setup device, and the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you how to connect another service. Now, I've already connected my Philips Hue in the home. This process is going to be fairly similar to what you're going to see me do, but I'm going to tap down here where it says have something already set up. So this is where you go and you get your different connected devices in your home connected to your Google Home. So you can see already I have a number of different devices here. What I haven't connected, or what I haven't connected in the new way, is called Harmony. Now, Harmony is essentially a TV control hub that allows you to control your cable and your DVD player or Blu-ray player and a bunch of different devices that work off of IR, and you get a remote with it. So I use it quite a bit, and so I'm going to tap on Harmony, and now essentially what it's going to ask me to do is connect the two services by signing in. Keep in mind, I already have Harmony set up in my home. I already have the application worked out, and that device is working in my home. Now, I used a Google account to connect and set up Logitech's Harmony Hub way long ago, basically, and now I just have to use that account. You might have to sign in with a username and a password. I just have to tap that button. So now I'm authorizing the connection of these two services, and actually I have multiple Harmony hubs in my home, so I'm just going to tap on change which one here just so you can see the full process. This is the screen you would get. It would allow you to choose your Harmony hub. When you choose that, you're just hitting the arrow up at the top, and now these are all my activities that I've set up in the Harmony application. So same as Philips Hue or any service you're connecting here, what you're going to see is the different things you've already set up. They're basically going to show you a summary and allow you to make slight modifications. Now, I'm not going to change the ability to watch TV. So, you know, if I want to say the wake word turn on television, I want it to start the watch TV activity. So that's what this is saying in terms of Harmony, but we're not going to get into the details there too deep. I've just got to hit the next button a couple of times, and now I'm hitting link account, and we're actually done that process. So now as I hit the done, what it does in the Google Home application is bring up the devices that I'm integrating. So what this means is, you know, for Philips Hue, you're going to see a bunch of bulbs. And for this, what you can see is my Sonos speaker is connected to my Logitech, my movie, game, Netflix, and TV. Those are those activities that we just imported. And what I have to do here is actually physically place these in rooms. So as I tap on game, I have to choose a home, and then I have to choose a room. Now, my Harmony Hub is in the basement living room, so I'm just really going to choose that a number of times here. And the only exception to that is my Sonos speaker is actually in a different room. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and choose that different room that it's in. And this is all I have to do with all my different devices. So here's my Sonos. This one's actually here in my office, and I can go ahead, hit next, and my TV is the last one here. That's in the basement living room. And now I've completed the linking and setup process. I can undo some of these things. So what you're going to see is there in my basement living room, I now see those Harmony devices, even though they're activities. And here's my TV. I'll go back into that. You can see I can change the name, I can change the home it's in, and I can change the room. And if I'd like, I can tap unlink Harmony and go ahead and unlink that service as well. So that's really it. Now from there, let me show you how to go ahead and actually use that functionality. Turn on the TV.
Sure, turning the TV on.
So now backing out of there, I want to show you in the settings screen a little bit more in terms of your device settings. So I've gone to the settings at the bottom right, and then I'm tapping on settings again. And now I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom, and there is a more settings way down here. Now the more settings capability, what I'll tell you is, you know, it's broken up into 3 different sections here: the personal info, the assistant, and the services. Now, assistant is more kind of where the rubber hits the road anyways, and you can see additional assistant device settings down below here. So this is the old screen more or less for your device. Now you can see the device name, the address, so you can actually separate addresses for different devices. The personal results here, Now inside here, you can see the device name, the address. You could set a different address if you'd like. I don't know why you'd ever do that. Personal results, here's where you can turn it on or off, and notifications like reminders on the device. There's also a YouTube restricted mode and a TV content filter that you can put on all the time right here. So that's just a switch. And you want to disable YouTube for guests in general. You can do that. You can teach your assistant your voice again, and there's another capability of unlinking this device. So those settings sometimes can be a little hard to find, so I just wanted to skip over there really quickly and run you through that. Now back in those settings, I want to show you a few things that affect how you interact with this device. More of those are going to be in the assistant settings, but the nickname capability here, you can change actually what it will call you when you use something like a routine and the device is speaking back to you. You can actually hit that play button and it will play what it's using for a nickname. Your places are your work and home addresses. You can add those in or you can delete them if you'd like with the X's there. Getting around, how do you get around in and around your home? So, you know, when you go to work, that's the top here. Do you drive a car or do you take public transportation? Now, when you go around elsewhere, do you take that public transportation or do you walk or you bike? Now, your people here, this is where your contacts inside your device can actually use those to remember things. So we turned on personal results, which is allowing my phone to connect contacts here. And as a result, I can go ahead and I can attach different memories or things to those contacts. So let me show you a little bit how this can work for you. Remember that Elizabeth's birthday is August 3rd?
Do you mean the contact named Elizabeth?
Yes.
Now, that birthday was August 3rd, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remember that Elizabeth's birthday is August 3rd.
Okay, now inside of your people, there's the birthday. It's been remembered. It's in the application now. Going forward, I'm going to get reminders and things about that. So you can also set payment details. This allows you to go ahead and order actually from Google Home, Google Assistant, any Google Assistant enabled stores that have been attached to this service. So the weather is very simple. Fahrenheit or Celsius, what do you want the weather in? Reservations and purchases, really right now, they're not heavily used. You can make reservations using Google Duplex when it gets pushed to this device. And purchases shows everything on your Google account. Now moving over to the assistant settings here, the languages, you can set 2 languages for your Google Home Mini. So you can see that I've set English United States here and English Canada, but if you'd like, you can utilize other languages. Now, what's kind of important here, you know, as I go and I pick something like French Canadian, if I want to speak French Canadian, each of my interactions with the Google Assistant has to be in that language. Now, I can switch during a continued conversation, which we'll talk about here in a second, but each time I say a phrase and then pause for a response, I have to use that language, so I can't skip back and forth, okay? So in general, you want to use one language per interaction. Now, speaking of continued conversations, once you turn this on, the microphone, whenever you ask a question or you use the wake word, the microphone will sit on for 7 seconds. So let me show you what that looks like. What's the weather like?
Right now in Ardrossan, it's -3 and mostly cloudy. Today, it'll be cloudy, with a forecasted high of -1 and a low of -3.
So now it's done, but it's still listening, and this is continued conversation. Now I could ask a follow-up question during this time period when the mic is still open. So let me show you what that looks like. What's the weather like today?
Today in Ardrossan, it'll be -3 and mostly cloudy.
What about tomorrow?
In our Ardrossan tomorrow, it'll be partly cloudy, with a high of 0 and a low of -7.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
So you can see, number one, I closed that microphone quicker when I said thank you to the device after I was done kind of speaking. But I also just said, what about tomorrow? And I got information about the weather tomorrow. So I didn't have to, say the wake word again and then ask about the weather in my location tomorrow. I just said, what about tomorrow? So that's what continued conversation is. It holds the mic open and it allows you to contextually continue the conversation with your device. So now the next things are voice match, home control routines, and email updates. Voice match, we've already been through. You could come in here and reteach your device. Home control is a massive, massive topic, but this part of the interface is actually the older part, and I don't want you to utilize this older part so much anymore, but in general what you can do is you can see your devices, and if you wanted you could hit the add device and connect another service. You could also go into the rooms here, hit the assign room button, and this allows you to assign rooms en masse. But what I'll tell you about this is most of your devices or things that are connected, they're mostly scenes from applications and they shouldn't actually have a room assigned to them. So in general, I'll say not really a useful part of the application right now. I'm going to show you how in a little bit here to connect another service. So give me some time there. We'll get back to connecting a device to your smart home so you can start to utilize it with your Google Home device. Back down here, routines. Now this is a thing that it needs its own whole set of videos here, but ultimately the routine section, there are 7 ready-made routines for you. Good morning is the easiest one for you to go ahead and go into, and you can modify what you can say as a command. And so when I say good morning, it will start to do these things. Now after that, I can go ahead and I can start modifying what works or what changes when I do this and in what order. So you can see the change order button here, and I can just drag things up and down as I go. Now the other thing I can do is I can check on certain things. So I could turn off all of these adjustment of lights and plugs, and then I can go into the settings, and for each one I can choose whether to turn on a bulb, turn it off, or don't change that bulb. Now I can do that for plugs, and there's other devices there. I could adjust thermostats if I'd like, and then you can see weather, commute, calendar, reminders, and volume. Now we talked a little bit about the calendar. What is connected right now is that one you use with the Google account, so you can get those calendar reminders. If you're on an iOS device, this is a much more complicated discussion, and I'm not going to dedicate 20 minutes in this video to making that synchronization happen. That takes other videos here. Now, you get today's reminders, you can adjust the media volume, and then you can play any sort of music. So all of that happens when I just say good morning to that device. Now let me show you what actually happens. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Brian. It is 12:07 p.m. Right now, it's 2 degrees and sunny there. Today, it'll be mostly sunny, with a forecasted high of 2 and a low of -7. On your way to work, traffic is light, as usual. It is 34 minutes by car. Have a wonderful day.
Now the other thing you can do in routines is create your own. And you can set them by a day and time. So you can actually pick multiple days, change the time, and have which speaker does this or which device does this. So I could choose this device to go on Mondays at noon, we'll say, and I don't have to say a command. I could add a command to trigger this with a command basis, as well as being able to trigger it utilizing that schedule. Then I can go and I can add actions. Now here's where you can type any Google Assistant command. So anything you normally use with the Google Assistant, you can go ahead and do that. The choosing of popular actions is that screen we were just in with a few more options. So you can go ahead, you can use communication, you can broadcast, whatever you want here, and you can even have the device respond to you or in some way with some kind of response in general. So now that's basically it for assistant services here, or assistant settings. Let's move over to the services side of the application. So we have voice and video calls. Now video calls obviously don't matter for a Google Home Mini or a Google Home, but they matter for smart displays. So let's go in there. Mobile calling available in Canada, the US, and UK right now. Other countries will be added in the future, although it has been a long time, so I don't know the timelines here. You basically put in your own number to this, and you can, when you do that, basically you get a text message and you have to put that code back in here. So that's all you have to do there in terms of calls on speakers in general, and then you can make calls and you can use your contacts if you've turned on personal results on this device. So it's going to pull those contacts for you. Brian.
Mobile or work?
Mobile.
Calling Brian. Mobile.
So now going back, there's the music services. So again, you can make adjustments to the services. If you wanted to unlink certain accounts, you could. You can see my Spotify, I could unlink there. Deezer, if I wanted to, again, I can go ahead and link that account if I'd like. All right, now news is a connected service here. So what you can do is you can add different news sources. Yours is going to look pretty plain the first time you get in there. You can switch which language those are in. So if you want Canadian specific news, you can go ahead and do that, and you can choose the different news services to add. Once you've added them, you can also change the order that they're in, and we're starting to see some of this video available on smart displays. So that capability, that's very nice. You can change the order and put that right at the front if you'd like to see that on a smart display. Next up are the photos and video services. Now, on a Google Home or a Google Home Mini, you wouldn't think this is really important, but if you have a Chromecast, connecting these video services is really important. And if you have a smart display, connecting Google Photos helps you with what's called ambient mode. Now, Netflix, you can see I've already integrated that account, and YouTube Kids. All you have to do is really hit link here and then put in your credentials to that service. So just the same as other smart home services or other services in general. Now moving down to TVs and speakers, there's not a lot here, but you can hit the add and you're adding Google Cast devices. So if you've added one of those, like a Chromecast, you can find it through that method as well. In general, I'd say you can just use that add button at the front to add devices like this as well, but that shows you all your different TVs and speakers that you can use. The calendar, again, this is exactly what we talked about before. It's attached to a Google Calendar application, and so therefore the Google account that you signed into and you used here is what's showing up here. Now, you could use different calendars if you had multiple calendars basically integrated, but for me, I just have the one. You could create the events there. So what I should probably do there is show you how to add and manage your calendar events. So let's go through a little demo here. Add a calendar event.
What's the title of the event?
Get to work.
Okay, when is the event?
5 p.m.
All right, get to work today at 5 p.m. Do you want to save that?
Yes.
All right, it's on your calendar.
So there you go. You can actually see it physically here on the calendar. It's shown up. Now, I could modify it in here if I'd like. I can make adjustments to whether or not I'm getting notifications. You can see there's a default notification setting. So again, I'm not going to run through all of this, but I'm going to get 30 minutes before a notification. Now, what I also want to do here is show you how to manage a little bit. What calendar events do I have today?
There's one entry today. At 5 p.m., you have Get to Work.
Okay, so continuing on the shopping list here, this is a capability that you can go ahead and you can add other people to. So you can create a shopping list through your Google Home device. You can go ahead, you can add items, and then you can manage it here in the application. You can also create a shortcut to this, which I'll show in a different series of videos if you need that for an Android or an iPhone device. But up in the top right, you can click that plus and you can go ahead and you can add other people to that list, and then they can manage that list. Now, in the future, those shopping lists are going to be replaced by Google Keep, is what I'll tell you in general. And your stocks are down here. Now, that's again attached to your Google account. So you can see how all these services are attached to your Google accounts, or for the most part they are. So, if you add in stocks here, you can just tap the add, and then you're going to get those as you ask. Now, obviously, with something like stocks, you can just ask for a specific stock from Google anyway. So that's really just giving you, hey, my favorite stock. So moving over to settings, up at the top, you can actually switch between different accounts, and you're able to manage your Google Home with different accounts. You can attach them to different accounts, and therefore that allows you to give friends or other people living with you access. Again, I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. You can skip between your two homes. You can look at all of the local devices on your Wi-Fi network, and that's just another shortcut basically back to that. You can set up a device, which is that add button again at the front, and there's the settings button again. So there's more settings down here. We'll get to all that stuff here. Back into the add screen, this is where you can create a new home. Again, what I would say this is more for if you want to split off and make sure your children only have access to controlling certain things in your home, say their lights in their room but not the lights in the rest of the home, you can actually create a new home and pair those or put those items in that home, and it will have a separate control scheme and capability. So you could do that if you'd like. Right now, let's kind of leave that. Let's go into the settings portion of the application now. So the first thing in settings is the name, the nickname for the home. That's that front screen thing again. Who's in the household, so who have you invited in? And again, we'll go back to that add screen and do that invite process, and I'll show you how that changes here. So back to add, let's add a home member. I'm going to choose someone. You could put in a name or an email, and now what you're doing is you're inviting them to control the devices. You're inviting them to basically have their own voice match capability. You're inviting a whole bunch of things here. So media services like video, books, music, all of those things. And then they can manage your Google Home application just the same as you can. So, people in general can utilize your Google Home device just by simply coming in and asking to turn on lights or turn off lights. But what you're giving them with this is to access all those controls and all those settings and really manage the home with you. So it's a different level. All you have to do is keep hitting view more until you get to the bottom, and then you hit confirm, and it sends an invitation out to that individual. Now, until they accept it, they don't show up in the household there. So it's, they have to accept that, and then you've invited them into your household basically. So now let's just go over to the settings page here, the account page. And I told you before, this settings button we weren't really going to use, and that's because it's straight to the same screen that we just came from. So everything's the same there. Now, exploring the Google Assistant, I've hit before. The music we've seen before, but the difference with the music here, when you tap on it from a Google Assistant or you go in that from the Google Assistant app, is a little bit important actually. So I want to show you actually, as you go into the Google Assistant here, if you go and look for the music services here, so I'm going to tap up at the top, I'm going to go to services, and I'm going to go to music. Now, watch for the difference here. So as I scroll down now, you'll notice one difference down here. Here's Apple Music, and you see it only available on iOS devices, and that's only available in the Google Assistant application. So no, you cannot use a Google Home Mini or a Google Home Hub and go direct to them and ask for Apple Music to play. However, here in the Google Assistant application, you have some ability to play Apple Music. So let me show you a couple instances of how that goes. You do have to do a little bit of extra work there. Once in there, you can see the different music services that are available. You could choose any one as the default. You could choose no default if you wanted. So down at the bottom, you're going to see Apple Music. Now, I'm using an iOS 11.x device here that allows me to do all of this. So I have an updated Google Assistant application, and my iPhone device is iOS 11. Now, skipping over to the Google Assistant itself, all I have to do is tap on the little microphone icon at the bottom. I'm going to ask it to play royalty-free music, and you'll see the assistant respond, sure, it's asking Apple Music. Now, let me show you. I'm going to mute the mic on my Google Home just so it doesn't trigger as I do this, but what's really funny about this demo is I'm actually connecting to an Amazon Echo Plus. I could do the same thing with the Google Home, and then I would also have the Google Home Alexa, and its capability for controlling
connect
music.
To my phone.
Searching. Now connected to Brian's iPhone.
Play royalty-free music on Apple Music. Next song. Volume down.
So in general, the Discover page here has your ambient mode, pictures, everything that's being shown on your other Cast-enabled devices. So if you have a Chromecast in your home, you can see right here, I have two, and those allow me to go in and manage the ambient settings. Now, it's not always going to show up here. Not every device in your home is going to show up here. So it's kind of a Discover page that's intended to let you learn about new functions. I don't use it a ton. Hey, you can come here anyways and learn about new functions and capabilities anyway. So let's skip over to Browse, where we have all of our different connected music and video applications. So you're able to actually go into different applications. This is the YouTube application, so it's pulling videos based on, well, I don't actually know because it's not like I watch anything about George W. Bush ever, but you know, you also have Netflix, which I've already connected, and I'll show you how to do that later. Google Play Music, which we saw at the start of the setup process, and here's all the different services that I've connected, so you can see all those. And finally, there's more services at the bottom here that you can go ahead and add as well. In the account preferences, you know, there's really only a couple things I want to talk about here. You can manage email notifications, and you'd think, okay, I don't want email notifications about anything, but you do get some good emails about the Google Home, the Assistant, and Chromecast. But you see that preview program right there? That gives you access to newer features. If it's not there, they're not accepting new people into the preview program. But for example, this allowed my Chromecast to be updated earlier than other people's Chromecast to allow me to include the Chromecast and multi-room audio before that was available publicly. So you do get some good features a little bit earlier, and you won't have to be asking me when it's coming out if you turn that on. Now, the search and the watch history, that's where you can go and you can manage your what Google keeps. The Wi-Fi history, you could actually clear out accounts that you've saved to Google if you didn't want them to have that anymore. Locations, app settings, you can adjust those over time. You can kind of explore that. Now, the next thing down below the account preferences there, rooms, groups, and devices. So this is another way to interact with your different rooms. So we saw this earlier on the home screen there, where we could go into the different rooms and actually manage, choose which devices are in there, delete those rooms if you'd like. But the other thing that's here is, is a group like other. And this shows you a lot of other devices. If they're not in a room, they're going to show up here. But what it's actually showing me mostly is scenes and things from Philips Hue. So that capability is there as well. And then you can see local devices and speaker groups. And I can also go ahead and hit add again, and I'm back to the same interface screen. So now down below the add, there's a create new home button, the ability to delete the home. So those are if you're creating other homes within your Google Home application, you can go ahead and manage those there. There's the shopping list again, so you can go into it. You can add people again. You can share that shopping list with them. Again, that's probably going to change to Google Keep here. Here's another interface for voice match. You can remove your devices, you can invite other people or teach your assistant your voice again. Then you have the music and TV and video services again. So here's your ability to add these different services again, or remove them or unlink them for services like Spotify. Again, we've already seen these things, so I'm not going to sit in them for a long time. The video and photos is there again, but the more settings is really where the rubber is going to hit the road here for us. So let's take some time and go through this. This is a big piece of what you're doing with your Google Home. Really, in terms of the application, there's a little more down there, but really in terms of the application, we're done here. So it's really time to show you all of the different functions, go through all of that and show you how to interact with the device in conjunction with your phone. So the last thing I will tell you here in the Google Home application is this feedback button. And if you're wanting to send feedback, there's a couple of different ways, and Google actually uses this. This is what they tell you to do all the time. They bring this feedback together, and that's how they decide to add new features. So if you're really bothered by something here and you want to send them some feedback, here's your ability there. The other thing you can do is actually speak to your Google Home device or Google Assistant enabled device and go ahead and just say, I'd like to give some feedback or send feedback to Google, and then it will ask you to proceed with your message to them. What's the news?
Here's the latest news. By the way, you can also ask for news about a given topic, like news about the Oscars or any other topic that is currently in the news. From CBC News, Hourly Edition, at 11 a.m. today.
What's the sports news?
Here's the latest sports news. From Sportsnet Update, at 7:08 a.m. today.
What's the Google stock price?
As of 2:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, the price for Alphabet Inc. Class A shares.
What's the temperature?
The current temperature in Ardrossan is 2 degrees.
Who is Scarlett Johansson?
According to Wikipedia, Scarlett Ingrid Johansson is an American actress and singer.
How old is she?
She's 34 years old.
Add an event to my calendar.
What's the title of the event?
Call Scarlett.
All right, when is the event?
1 p.m.
Sure, call Scarlett today at 1 p.m. Do you want to save that?
Yes.
Okay, it's on your calendar.
Set a reminder for 12:14 p.m. to go to work.
All right, I'll remind you at 12:14 p.m.
What are my reminders?
You have 2 reminders for today. Go to work at 12:12 p.m. and go to work at 12:14 p.m.
Set an alarm for 12:15 p.m.
All right, your alarm's set for 12:15 p.m.
Set a music alarm for 12:16 p.m.
All right, and what music would you like me to play?
Foo Fighters.
Got it, I'll play Foo Fighters music for 12:16 p.m.
I've got another confession to make.
Hey Google, stop. Play YouTube on Basement Chrome.
Okay, playing recommended YouTube videos on Basement Chrome.
Stop Basement Chrome. Turn out the lights.
Sure, turning off 7 lights. It looks like the light bulb isn't available right now.
Turn on the lights.
Sure, turning on 7 lights.
Turn off the lights in the basement office.
You got it, turning 2 lights off.
Turn on the lights in the basement living room.
Okay, turning the basement lamp on.
Change the basement office light to red.
You got it, changing 2 lights to red.
Turn on the TV.
You got it, turning on the TV.
Turn off the TV.
Okay, turning the TV off.
Play Foo Fighters.
Okay, playing Foo Fighters on Google Play Music.
Play Foo Fighters on Spotify.
Okay, playing Foo Fighters on Spotify.
Volume to 30%. Next song. Stop. Enable Bluetooth.
Alright, looking for paired devices. Alright, to connect, open Bluetooth settings and look for the device called kitchen speaker.
Next song. Disable Bluetooth.
Okay, Bluetooth is disconnected.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, Brian. It is 12:07 p.m. Right now, it's 2 degrees and sunny there. Today, it'll be mostly sunny, with a forecasted high of 2 and a low of -7. On your way to work, traffic is light, as usual. It is 34 minutes by car. Have a wonderful day.
So there you have it, everyone. That's my full setup for the Google Home. This fits for all of the Google Assistant enabled products. There's some minor differences, tweaks, things like that, or different tips, but ultimately, that's everything. That's all you need to know today. Of course, if there's anything else, please leave it down in the comments below. If you have other questions or other concerns that I didn't answer today, please do leave them down below. I'll get to them, and I try and answer every question or comment here on the channel. So go ahead, guys, leave them there and we'll get to them right away. Otherwise, thanks for watching. And of course, if you've liked this and you need more content like this, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, join up with us here, and there are also links down below to stuff we're selling here on the channel, of course, if you'd like to support us. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.